All right. So, why does God allow some people to live longer than others, like a 90-year-old versus a 15-year-old? I mean,
Uh, I don't know how to say this, but if I was asking the question, God would say Nunya. It's not my
it's
business.
not for you,
Yeah,
the appointed times and seasons.
yeah. Let me give you a couple of passages here. Um, there's a passage in Psalm 139, and it says, this is in verse 15, it says, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me when as yet there were none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them." And the passage goes on there. And so when you look at what God has planned for people, He's got a different plan for every person, and it's all set down. So God knows exactly how long people are going to live. Obviously, He knows the end from the beginning. He doesn't learn anything. And so He knows how long people are going to live, and He's got a purpose for their lives, and He uses everything in glorifying Himself so that more people will come to Him. And so there are times when you have people die who are young, and I get it. It's like they're 15 years old, and God takes them home to be with them. There are a number of passages that deal with this kind of thing. There's a passage in the book of Genesis where it says that Enoch walked with God, and he was not. And it was because Enoch pleased God, and so God took him. And so there are some people that God looks at and He goes, "I just like you. Get on up here," and he takes him home to be with him. There's a passage in Isaiah 57 in verse 1. It says, "The righteous perishes, and no man takes it to heart. Merciful men are taken away, while no one considers that the righteous is taken away from evil. He shall enter into peace, they shall rest in their beds, each one walking in his uprightness." And so there are times when the reason that God takes somebody home to be with Him is specifically because He wants to spare them from something that's going to come in their life that's going to harm them in some way or another. And so he wants to keep them. I have had some friends. I had a friend who just was in love with the Lord, just doing really well with God, and he started flaking off a little bit, and he was getting into a position. He wasn't necessarily there yet, but he was getting himself into a position where it looks like he could fall and fall hard. He could go into a backslidden state, and he got in a car accident and was killed instantly. And really young guy. He was in his early 20s. And when me and my buddies that knew him really well were looking at that, we were like, you know what? It looks like God just took that guy home, because it looks like he was getting influenced by people that were not good, and again, he's still going to church, following the Lord, doing all that kind of thing, and then he got in this accident, and it was like, why would God take Fernando? And it was pretty obvious that it looks like He took him home because he didn't want him to walk away from Him. And so I am sure that Fernando, when he stood before the Lord, said, "Thank you very much," at that point. There's another passage in John chapter 21 where Jesus is talking to Peter, and He says, "Most assuredly I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will gird you and carry where you do not wish." This He spoke, signifying by what death He would glorify God. And when He had spoken this, He said to him, "Follow me." And the way that Peter died was he was crucified, actually crucified upside down. That was Peter's request, actually. Then Peter, in verse 20, it says, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following. That's John, the guy who wrote the book of John, who also leaned on his breast at the supper and said, "Lord, who is the one who betrays you? Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, but Lord, what about this man? And Jesus said to him, if I will that he remain till I come, what is that to you? You follow me. And so ultimately, God's got these things in his hands. He's got a purpose for everything that he does. And again, there are some times when God takes children early, and obviously, if my children went before me, I would be hugely bummed out. That's not what's supposed to happen. I want to go first. They need to be mourning for me. I don't want to be mourning for them. And so, but there are times when God does that, and when God does that, it's according to his will. We're not getting out of here before he wants us out of here. It's according to his will, and you can always know that his will is good. He's got something planned. He's got something going on there. And so when I get to heaven, and I know just like I'm known, I'm going to have all those answers. And I'm not really interested in going home to be with the Lord right now, like before my wife or anything. But if he took me, I would have no complaints. If it had took me when I was 20, I would have had no complaints. And other people might have complained, and tough cookies for them. So hopefully that helps you out.